All right, welcome everybody. Episode 85. We're almost to 100, Mark. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow. Wow,
Uh-huh.
that's pretty incredible. It's almost 2 years, right?
Uh-huh.
Only just
Yeah.
only just seems like it only just seems like yesterday we started this, and
Yeah,
yet
we
it feels a long time too.
yep. No, it's really good. How are things going in Australia? How's your house coming?
It's a standstill. It's there's a bit of weather around, and the builders are obviously busy with something else, and so we had all this activity earlier on, and
Mm,
here we are, waiting for things to be done. So it's like, welcome to the world of construction and
right.
contractors, and all of those sorts of things. Unfortunately, we're Peterless today. He's got
We
some family
are.
things. We always miss when Peter's not here with us, but I'm sure he's having some great time with uh, his family and with his working with his son. So that's an important thing. So
Yeah,
that's
well, I
good for
think
him.
there's a baseball game tonight. They're
Yeah, apparently,
got things going on, so super fun. And
whatever
then
that whatever that game is.
yeah, yeah. It's like cricket on steroids. So
Actually, I just noticed something here in our city. There is a baseball pitch, and there's actually baseball teams. It's like I
let's
walked past it
go.
the other day. I was like, oh wow,
Uh-huh.
that's pretty amazing.
It's a
It's like,
field. It's not a pitch.
oh, it's not a pitch. Oh, it's a field, is it?
Okay.
Oh, well, whatever it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
But no, it's not. That's
It's a
great.
cricket pitch. It's a
Yeah.
cricket pitch. You see,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, yeah, we had a good day yesterday. Turned 46. It's a big birthday, so that was fun. And
oh wow,
yeah, I had a great day. Had a good dinner and got some amazing gifts. I was kind of
cool.
blown away.
I was
You develop a prophetic community and you work with people, and man, the prophetic gifts are just the best.
yeah.
It's like just such a blessing. So super
Well,
fun. And
happy birthday, Chris, for yesterday.
thank you.
I
Yeah,
was I was I was 46 at your age.
you were, and I'm 46 at my age, so it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's a perfect. Well, actually, somebody once said to me about that, which was life changing for me. Actually, about age, um, because I think that as you progress in age, you can get somewhat disturbed. People have midlife crisis and all those sorts of
right.
things.
Yeah.
And so this mutual friend of ours said to me, if you believe that you were born in the timing of God, in the place that God had for you at the right time, then at every age, you're the perfect age,
That's right.
right? Which really
Yep.
destroys the midlife crisis type things,
Uh-huh.
or,
Uh-huh.
thinking when you get into your 50s or 60s, I'm running out of time or whatever. It's, no, I'm at the perfect time.
That's right.
And so
Yep.
you tend to live more for the present, as well as you can be visionary, but you enjoy, because I'm at the perfect time. God wanted
Yeah.
me born in this time.
Well,
So I mean, I just made the 50s. The last month of the last year of the 50s, I just made the 50s. In fact, actually, I came a bit early, so I was anxious to get into the world. And so I could easily have, been anyway. So
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I,
No,
I,
that's
I
great.
just made the 50s.
Well, isn't it interesting too that so we often talk about time, right, and the
Mhm.
value and importance of time, and so much of our time is spent on things that the enemy has put out there to get us distracted,
Yes.
right? Like we spend a ton of our time
Yeah.
distracted. We spend a ton of our time on things that have
Yeah.
zero value or
Yeah.
importance to the kingdom and to what God has
Yeah.
us doing. And we fret and worry and expend emotional energy and physical energy on things that the Lord's like, that's not for you. And we learn over time, we go, okay, Lord teaches us, and we go, okay, yeah, you're right, God, that's something that I shouldn't be taking my time on or wasting my time with, and yet so often we end up living a lot of our lives distracted.
Yeah. Which is interesting that you talk about this, because I sort of have this interest in certain words. And if you think about all the words that start with DIS, I
Yeah.
talked about this. You just talked about
Yeah.
distraction.
Yeah.
DIS means the removal of something, and I think that they tend to be words, and I don't mean we can't use those words. I just mean that they seem to often describe the work of the enemy. Where you have distraction as the removal of traction.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
has all sorts of strategies that cause us to get distracted, so that we're just spinning our wheels. Or discouragement, which is the removal of courage.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that encouragement, which God is involved in, is the bringing of courage. It's
Correct.
imparting
Yes. So
courage.
good.
Or
Yeah.
disappointment. The removal of an appointment. That's what it's designed to do. So
Yeah.
that whenever you see DIS words,
Yeah.
have a look at what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I like to play with people in a little bit when they tell me they're disillusioned. Like I've had some people tell me they're disillusioned with me. And it's like, well, you know what you're saying, don't you? That DIS is the removal of an illusion. An illusion is not something that's not real. It's, if you do an illusion, a trick, whatever else, you're doing something that's not real. So you've just got the removal of something that was never there in the first place.
Right.
So I can see why you're disillusioned, because, the illusion is being removed.
Uh-huh.
That's just I'd like to play with those sort of things. But whenever you see these dis words, okay, look for what you're meant to step into. Like discouragement, and you're feeling discouraged. Well, that means that there's an attempt to remove the courage. So start in being encouraged. Start sowing courage. Start.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to pick up on that. Just pick up on that distraction, because it is true. I think it's one thing that the enemy. There's lots of things, but I think there's been a lot of distraction going on.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and thank you, Mandy, for the birthday wish, and Dave as well. It's good to see you, Mr. Champion. Yeah, it's really interesting. And you and I were talking briefly a little bit, and I said, one of the we walked through some situations recently, just as Insight Now, just three of us, and challenges with leadership, challenges with decision making, and the things that we've got going on in our lives and world. And something, Mark, you said that was always so impactful for me was, yeah, this is important, but it's not urgent.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Sorry, in the chat. He threw it up on Facebook and YouTube. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I just thought, everybody else is saying happy birthday to you, and I want to get up there, but it's put it as Insight Now. So
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so something I said. Tell me what I said.
Some things are important, but they're not urgent.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of distraction comes because we make the unimportant urgent.
Yeah.
Or we don't prioritize the value of a thing well.
Yeah. So something that's urgent really needs attention straight away. Attention now. It needs focus now. It's got a use by date sort of thing. It's got a immediacy about it. Whereas something that's important, it still needs to be attended to. It still needs to be worked out or worked through or whatever else. But it's not. And you're right, when you confuse those two, what you do is that you actually, if you're trying to make something urgent that's really only important, then you often get yourself into trouble, because you've made something that's not urgent, and you don't have a grace for the urgency on that. And therefore we can tend to make mistakes, because we've taken something out of its environment and put it into another class that is not true. It's not true to it. It's not true for
Mm-hmm.
that. So that
Yeah.
when you call something what it is, that's great. When
Yes.
you call something that isn't, and I know that the scripture says, calling things that aren't as if they are. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about imposing something upon something that's not meant to be imposed upon.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get into a wrong place when you're trying to deal with something that's important and making it urgent.
Yeah. 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 And one of the things that I commonly find is that um, we don't have a good filter to understand what's our priorities, what's
Mm-hmm.
important, what's not important. We don't have good filters for that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things I ask myself is there something in here that I am personally responsible for?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, as a pastor, a lot of people will bring me their high urgency need, right? Like when I'm playing that pastoral role, like they need some personal care, some counsel, some of those types of things. And they've got a very high need for or high urgency around something. And I have to, okay, well, what's my part? And is their urgency my urgency?
Yeah.
Right? Is that the same thing? And is
Mm-hmm.
there what they're saying is important? Is that really what's important here? And Father, I'm asking for some wisdom in that. So
Yeah.
you need that sometimes because it's easy to allow other people's stuff to become a distraction too.
Yeah. And I think that that's also why, Chris,
Yeah,
yeah, you want to
I'm
mute.
here. Yep.
I think that's why it's important to have some people around about you that can be that sounding board, because sometimes we misinterpret or misunderstand the circumstance or the situation, and so we need to have some insight or some people to be able to help
Yep.
us to see perspective, and uh, and we don't always want that, particularly if you're in it's an urgent mindset place. I've got to do this. I've got to fix this now. I've got to do these sorts of
Yeah.
things right
Yeah.
now, and we lose the perspective of it. So
Yeah. Yeah, we
um,
do. We do lose perspective quickly. And oftentimes too, the things that in our lives are really, this is my old man dog who's walking around here. You might hear him.
uh-huh.
The things that often we don't have a good grid on what's important versus urgent, and oftentimes that's because of past experiences, things that
Yeah.
we've done in our past, or ways things have turned out, and we think, oh, if I don't take care of this, it's gonna, if I don't have the right response, it's going to end poorly for me. You were talking a little bit about the whole process of forgetting those things which are behind,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
leaving those
Yeah.
things in the past.
Yeah.
You share a little bit
It,
about that?
yeah. I think it's a scripture that a lot of people would be aware of, and it's the latter part of it that a lot of people have probably had prophesied to them, or have prophesied themselves, particularly as we
Hmm.
come into a new year,
Yeah.
which is that, behold, I'll do a new thing. It's
Hmm.
like, there's a new thing. Shall you not see it? Shall you not know it? I'm going to make I'm going to roads in wilderness and rivers in deserts and all that sort of stuff. But the preceding part of that is, do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. And if you just read it like that, you're thinking, oh, goodness, golly, what am I just got to blank my memory out. I don't think he's saying that. I think what he's saying is, it's okay to have memories, but don't use your memories to determine what your future's going to be looking like.
That's right.
Don't
So good.
don't
Yeah.
don't attach yourself to, this is what we used to do, or this is how it used to be, or back in the old days we used to do it this way, or whatever else. Like, don't use that to compare your future, because
Hmm.
your future's not yet written. And so that we can be attached to an idea which used to work or used to be the flavor or used to be what God was doing. And so attached to that, we have to actually release ourselves from the form of things. We have
Isn't that
to.
the Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that the same thing with prophetic words?
Tell me more. What do you mean?
So I think often like God will release a word for a season, and He gives us an opportunity to move into something for a season, and that season passes. The word is still good and it's still there, but God actually puts a different priority on the word, right? And He moves something else there into kind of a primary position for, okay, well, that was for this season. Now I've got a new word for this season, right? And so sometimes what we'll do is we'll get so stuck on the old word we can't enter into the new season.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing, because I think we've had this discussion before, but maybe not live. Um, a, a little while ago, maybe a week or so ago, I was listening to the radio and I heard a song that I recognized, but it wasn't like I recognized it. So it was a remix song, and I've heard plenty of them. Whereas I could tell the tune, I could tell the song that it was, but it wasn't anything like I remembered. It'd been remixed, so the key components had been kept, but
Correct.
the in between bits and pieces had been jigged up and come to life, and all of those sorts of things. And I felt like the Lord just told me that's what I'm doing. I'm taking key components. Like I'm taking this prophetic word that's been declared over you, and the essence of the prophetic word is still very true, but yes. I'm just changing some things. I'm putting a new melody into it, or I'm putting a little bit new words, or I'm putting some new insight of that, because the word of God is living and active, right? And we use that for the Bible, for the written word, but it's just as clear because it is the word of God. It's not just not the Bible. It's not just what God has said written down, but it's what He has said to you prophetically, or has said to you now, or whatever else. It's living and it's active. So if it's living and active, it's going to mean that it's going to come in different perspectives. And so what we have a tendency to do is to keep something locked up in its boundary and its little box, and to say, well, that's how God has moved. That's how He's done stuff. That's the formula that's worked before. All I've got to do is take that formula and apply it to now. Well, I think you'll be disappointed.
I think you will be too. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because the purpose of all of this is not God just being tough with us and difficult and hard to get on with. That's not the case. He's just saying, "Hey, listen, I'm new every morning."
Yeah.
Like I'm the same yesterday and today and tomorrow, but I do different things every day, because I don't want you to become familiar. Again, I think I talked about this on a live stream, Kingdom Thoughts, and I certainly talked to a church staff about it. But I'm thinking about Jesus, right, in Nazareth, in the synagogue, and He's teaching, and He's speaking, and He's preaching, and life is flowing, and the people are excited, and they're hanging on to every word, and the people that you would normally go to sleep are awake and wide, they're connected, and they're just absolutely, faith is in that room, and there's all sorts of things. And then somebody recognizes who's speaking. Somebody recognizes that that's Jesus, the son of Mary and Joseph, the carpenter, and faith gets sucked out of the room, right? It's deflated. People come down, oh, it's just Jesus. We know Him, and
we grew up with Him.
And it's an amazing story, because I can't imagine it happening, because I think if I'm there, I would have been just like, oh, I'm spellbound, But something happened, and He said that faith was just non-existent. It was so pronounced that He's not able to do very much. He wasn't able to achieve the things that He was intending to achieve.
Yep.
And that's because they they stepped into familiarity, and they allowed
Mm.
familiarity, the familiarness, to dampen and to rob them of a whole lot of things. And that's what
Yeah.
happens when you stay in familiar territory. That's why the Holy Spirit is the comforter, because he wants to take
Mhm.
us into uncomfortable places, right? He wants to take us into uncomfortable surroundings and places, um, because he knows that that's a place where we will be on the edge, where we'll be
Yep.
in a place of
Totally. Yep.
freshness and newness,
Yep.
and not reliant upon what's always been. That's why the
Yep.
prophet is saying,
Yep.
listen, I don't want you
Yeah.
to rely upon what I've done in the past and how I've operated, how I've treated. I don't want you to do that, because I know if you do, you'll just formalize it.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the more difficult things about this is that our past helps us draw boundaries of safety for the future, right? Like, so the
Yeah.
experiences that we have, we go, okay, well, that hurt, that was bad, that was nice, that was pleasant, that felt
Mm-hmm.
good, that felt bad. So we start to draw boundaries around, what we will do, what we will not do in the future. And yet
Yeah.
God calls us into a place of radical obedience and faith that is really uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
because we have to rely on him for the comfort. We have to rely on him for whatever comes next. Like, we want to see rivers in the desert, you got to go to the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to stream in the wilderness, you got to go to the wilderness. It's one of those places where you have to really trust the Lord in that. And I think just going back a little bit to that concept of being able to prioritize what it is that we spend our time on, what it is that we put our energy into.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of the process too. I think our personal boundaries create our own distraction. Those areas where we've chosen no longer to believe God in faith. Instead, we chose I know this is safe,
Yeah.
and I know this is comfortable. And we
Yeah.
choose that route instead of, this is uncomfortable and I have no idea how this is going to go, but the Lord has said, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the battles
Um,
are going to look like, but God spoke.
yeah. And just another aspect, as we're talking about, the prophetic words too, is that, and I think that they are constantly, um, uh, there's a life about them, but at the same time, Paul also told Timothy, "Hey, I'm giving you this prophetic word, or these prophetic words
That's
have
right.
been given to you to fight with. They're a weapon."
Yep. Yep.
And there's a number of weapons that I think that we have, because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, they're not fleshly, they're not like any other
Mm-hmm.
weapons, but they are
Mm-hmm.
mighty for pulling down
Mm-hmm.
strongholds. They are mighty
Mm-hmm.
for attacking arguments and thoughts and things like that, because all of that is declared under, I think, in what Jesus said. Hey, the kingdom of heaven is close at hand. It's nearby. You've just got to change the way that you think about it. And so, therefore, he's given us weapons, to be able to address some of those strongholds and thoughts and so forth. And the
Yeah.
prophetic words are one of those, because
Yeah. Well,
it's
I've got some teaching
yeah,
on how to steward a prophetic word, right? Like, what if, God gives us a prophetic word so that we can go to war with them, but if we don't steward them well, we actually have a dull weapon, right? If we don't steward
mm,
the prophetic word well. So one of the things I talk about with stewarding a prophetic word is taking the word to those in our life that we trust and
mm-hmm,
letting them speak into it, letting
yeah,
them weigh into it,
yeah,
submitting the prophetic word to people so that we can have clarity about destiny, about the future. I
yeah,
I know myself fairly well, but I don't see myself very clearly. I need those
yeah,
amazing people around me to see the things in me that I could never see on my own. So I get a prophetic word about some aspect of destiny on my life. If I'm not willing, if I'm taking ownership of that word and I say, oh, this is my word and it's mine, and I'm not going to really share it, I'm just going to ruminate it on myself. I'm not going to let anyone else weigh in on it. I'm not really
yeah,
stewarding the word well, right?
mm,
Because I don't see myself clearly. So when I'm like, hey, I got this prophetic word and I submit that to you and Peter, you guys will often speak angles and insights into that. Actually, you know what? I think it's actually about this thing, and have you thought about moving that direction? And I think the Lord's actually speaking into this area of development in your life. And and
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, I'm getting such upgrade in my prophetic, right? Because I'm now getting greater clarity about who I am. I'm getting
Yeah.
greater clarity about what God is saying. But now I have got a sharp weapon to war with. Right. But if I am unwilling to submit the word to somebody, if I'm not unwilling to let those people that I trust speak into my life about that word, I am not stewarding the word well. Because guess what? The prophetic words are for. They're not always for me. Right. Like every great prophetic word in my life is actually for the impact of the kingdom of heaven more than it is just for me. It's for my calling, like who I am as a person to be unleashed in the earth, which is to bring glory to the Father and bring people to Jesus. It's like, it's so much bigger than me. So if I've got to, so for me, one of the things I do is I talk about stewarding it. It's not my word. I'm just stewarding the word because it's his destiny and call on my life for the sake of others. I just have to keep those other people in my forefront of my mind in order to steward it well.
Yeah. 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 That's a sailor moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pause and think on, on those sorts of on those things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you know how the Lord said to Moses, when he's giving him this amazing assignment, and he says, "What's that in your hand?"
Yep.
It's like the woman in the widow, who's just preparing to, the creditors come and take her sons away, the wife of the prophet. And I get these two mixed up. Is it Elijah or Elisha? One of them comes to her and
I
says,
think it's
hey,
Elisha. Yeah.
Elisha, yeah.
I think.
You know,
I
yeah.
don't know either.
What have you got? And she said, well,
Yeah.
I've got nothing except this little bit of oil.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we are forgetting what we've got, forgetting what we've got in our hands, forgetting what has already been given to us. And we know that Jesus said, very, very clearly, that if you're faithful with what you do have, then you get more.
Mm-hmm.
If you are being a good steward of what you already have. And I think I like to pay. I mean, I can always do better, and I know, but I have folders full of prophetic words, and I think I have folders full of prophetic words not only because um, I'm a good target for prophetic words, just being in that sort of environment, but I think it's because I value them. It's because I
Yeah.
take them, and every word that I get, I've taken it and I've valued those sorts of things, and I think that when you value something, and value is not just saying I value it; it's what you actually do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jesus did say, "You shall know them by their fruit."
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what's the fruit? We know that wisdom is the correct application of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You can know something, but unless you actually apply that, we know that the key to breakthrough is always follow through. So it's
That's right.
what do you do with this? So you can hear something. You can hear something today. You can hear something today that stirs in you. Think, oh, that's a good idea, but it just stays an idea because you don't action it. You don't take it
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, I'm going to possess that. I'm going to start looking at the things that I think are urgent in my life, and I'm start going to put them into a place where I relax a little bit more because they're important. I'll get to that. I'll make a note to it, but I
Yep.
won't become consumed by that.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so therefore I've got space to be able to operate with things that are urgent because I haven't got the urgent, the urgent activation thing going all of the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that it's really important when we call something what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and operate within that. Because if you're just doing urgent all the time, then when the real urgent comes, you can't see it.
That's right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, and
Um,
plus you don't have capacity for it either because you're always doing everything on that. Everything's always on fire.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like driving a vehicle. You call it the gas pedal, we call it the accelerator. But got your
Either
foot on
one
the.
works. Either one works.
Okay, so you got yourself on the accelerator, and if you just stay on the accelerator all of the time, you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you also stay on the brake all the time, you ain't going anywhere.
That's right.
So there has to be a place in which we operate in that which is necessary, and then at the time, and those two things operate together, which is a
Yep.
great segue to end.
Perfect.
I knew we'd get there sometime. I knew we'd
Yeah,
be
there
there
you
sometime.
go. There you go. Yeah.
Any
Yep.
case, we're almost done, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that this ability to separate and prioritize, what are we doing with our energy, what are we doing with our time, because the enemy wants us distracted, right? He wants to
Yeah,
remove traction from our lives. That's one of his
yeah,
primary goals. And one of the greatest ways that we can probably go to war against that is to look at, where is their traction, where is their
mm,
life on
mm,
whatever it is that we're doing, because
mm-hmm.
being able to invest in those things, and to even take time in your prophetic words and bring those out. Okay, God, where are you putting a priority in this season? What is it? And being able to say, okay, these are the things that God is highlighting as important. That's where I'm going to spend time and energy, and I'm not going to allow the urgent to overwhelm me. I'm going to put the things that are falsely urgent, right? Those things that are kind of um, desiring the urgent attention. I'm going to put those actually on the back burner, even if they're important. I'm going to put them on the back burner because I'm only going to put my time and energy in the places where God's asking me to,
Yeah,
right? And learning how to walk that out, removing the old patterns, the old ways of doing things. It's good.
yeah. So don't remember the former things,
Mm-hmm.
nor
Yep.
consider the things of old, because I'm going to do a new thing. I want to take you into new places. I want to ruin the wilderness by putting a road in there, and ruin the
Yeah.
desert
Come
by
on.
putting rivers in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the purpose of why God is saying, listen, I want you to let go of the past things. The past hurts.
Mm-hmm.
The past good things, the things that keep you locked back into there, because I want to do a new thing. That's my intention, is to do a new thing. Will you not let me? It goes on to say, don't you perceive it? Don't you understand it? Don't you recognize it? And that's what I want. That's what I want to take you in, because I want to ruin the wilderness. And please don't, say that I'm being environmentally a vandal. I'm not talking. I'm talking about
Oh, oh man,
I'm
that's good. Hey, Dave
talking about.
says,
Yep.
am I the only one hearing this? Seems like it's only for me. Maybe, Dave, but no, I think you're not the only one hearing it. It's good stuff. It's ministering to me. It's a good reminder for me. When you got a
Yep.
lot of stuff going on, everything wants to push for an immediate response, and it's like, well, no, I don't need to rush my responses. It's important, but it's not urgent. I can,
Can I finish? Can I finish with this thing? I
yeah,
think the key thing is that the Father's always looking for opportunities to bring us into place, so that the things that used to mask us have its rightful place and service.
yes,
Right? And so
that's
when
good. Yeah,
situations
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
try to convince you that they're urgent, then they become the leader
Yeah,
rather than they meant to service. And
yeah,
every time that you submit yourself unto something that's meant to serve you, then you've established that as a god, or that as a false god over you, because it's having control over you. You submit yourself to that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so when you bring things into proper place and proper alignment, and those things serve you, that's the great place.
Yep, that's good. Yeah, Annalie says, "Me too, Dave. Just listening while I get some important but not urgent stuff done."
Good.
And then Dave says, "If he'll do it for me, he'll do it for any, and wants to do it for all." That's so true.
Amen.
So true.
Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Well, we appreciate you guys, and as always, find us at insightnow.co. You can check out the schedule. We got some schedule shifts coming up, and those will get announced here next week. And excited about this next season of Insight Now and what the Lord's going to do. So, with that, we bless everybody and have a good one.
Yeah. See you next week.
Okay.